Was this ancient robot really a famous demon giant from the past? Or was it once a human whose soul got stuck in this giant iron body? And did we totally miss some hidden message at the end of this chapter? The One Piece manga is giving us more questions than answers, as usual. Now we know the Iron Giant, called Emeth, is alive, thinking, and way more important than we ever thought. Before we get into what Emeth's role in the story might be, we gotta figure out what he actually is and how he ended up like this. I'd bet anything, and I think you would too, that this isn't just some regular robot. It's totally possible that Emeth was a human who got turned into a robot. Remember how advanced the Ancient Kingdom's tech was? Look at all the wild stuff Vegapunk's been doing with Kuma, turning him into a cyborg. So, it's not that crazy to think the Ancient Kingdom could have done something even bigger and better back in the day. With all the brain and body transformations we've seen, it seems pretty likely that someone could have downloaded Emeth's mind and uploaded it into this robot. But why do that? If Joy Boy and his crew knew they were gonna lose, they might have made plans for some of them to survive and fight the world government later on. The idea of downloading a human into a robot is the easiest explanation, but there are other theories that are even more exciting. Take the Buccaneer race, for example. We just found out about them, and we don't fully understand their abilities yet. In Chapter 11:14, we learned that Kuma's body should have been dead. Saint Saturn said he hit the self-destruct button, so Kuma shouldn't have been able to move. But there he was, punching that evil goose right in the face. Even Vegapunk was shocked, wondering if Kuma could keep going because Buccaneers have some special trait. What do you think about this crazy idea that Buccaneers might have the power to come back from the dead? Kind of like how Brook's devil fruit works. If that's true, maybe Kuma's soul came back to his body to protect his daughter. Just a theory, though. But imagine if it's real. It could explain so much about the One Piece world, like the origin of devil fruits, the poneglyphs, and even the One Piece itself. So, let's talk about Emeth. If he was a Buccaneer and his soul came back to live on after he died, then maybe his soul is still inside that ancient robot, just like Kuma's soul is in his cyborg body. There might be some rules about how long they can stick around, like needing to finish some important task before they can rest in peace. For Kuma, it was probably protecting his daughter. For Emeth, maybe it was completing a mission from Joy Boy during the Void Century. There's a lot more to this, so let's dive in. There could be other reasons why Emeth turned into a robot. Maybe it's a devil fruit power. Like, what if there was a fusion devil fruit that lets someone merge a soul with an ancient robot body? Or maybe an old user of Big Mom's fruit used their soul powers to animate the robot, kind of like how Big Mom did with stuff on her ship. But since Emeth was underwater, that seems less likely. There's also a darker possibility. Remember the first episode of Full Metal Alchemist? The brothers Edward and Alphonse tried to bring back their mom using forbidden alchemy, but things went wrong, and Alphonse's soul got stuck in a suit of armor. Maybe something like that happened in One Piece's past, causing Emeth to end up in his current state. You've got this whole theme where an advanced civilization messes around with forbidden tech or crazy science and ends up blowing up the world. Maybe the Ancient Kingdom found a way to make people live longer, but for Emeth, the ritual went sideways, and he lost his body. Or, get this, what if the Gorosei got their eternal life by sacrificing someone like Emeth? Just tossing around ideas here. But you can see there are loads of ways a human Emeth could end up in that robot body. But hey, Emeth doesn't have to be human. Maybe he was part of a super strong race that's extinct now. Those horns on the robot's head? They're kinda like the ones we've seen before, like on Kaido, or those demon giants like Ors and Ors Jr. Weirdly enough, Emeth's robot body kinda looks like Ors Jr. too, with that big round middle section, the face, and the chest. So, even though I think Emeth might just be a regular human or a Buccaneer, it's totally possible the robot suit was made to look like one of those horned races, which were super strong in the One Piece world. Quick recap. We've talked about Emeth being a person, or another race who got their soul stuck in a robot body, or turned into a cyborg. But another possibility is that Emeth was always a creation, later given the ability to think, remember, and even have free will. This idea is actually pretty strong because of Emeth's name. Emeth in Hebrew can mean truth, firmness, or loyalty, which fits an ancient robot pretty well, especially with Joy Boy's story. However, what's actually unique about this word Emeth in Hebrew is that it was the word used in Jewish tales to activate artificial beings known as golems. Golems are said to be created by a person or divine being, and then given specific commands to aid their creators, which, let's be honest, sounds very much like this One Piece version of Emeth. So maybe Joy Boy or someone else created Emeth, and then Nika's powers brought him back to life. Maybe Luffy's devil fruit is what allows the creation of this artificial life. There's this weird link to the automata on the moon, right? They were brought back to life by Enel's devil fruit and they're sentient, so we've seen this idea before. Now, about the word Emeth, Oda definitely chose it on purpose. In Hebrew, Emeth means truth and loyalty, usually talking about God. It means something like absolute truth or loyalty, which could relate to the robots. Maybe this robot is supposed to share Nika's or Joy Boy's absolute truth. If you check out the last few chapters, Vegapunk's huge broadcast kind of did that by sharing his message with the world. But I think that's not the main point. Vegapunk told us some stuff about the ancient world, but didn't really call out the world government as the main bad guys. There's still so much we don't know about the Void Century or how to beat the Gorosei. If Emeth has a big truth to reveal, I think it'll be something personal about the world or Joy Boy. Maybe even a message from Joy Boy for Luffy or the future. Now that Emeth's jumped into the fight, he might be the one to spill the beans on how to actually damage and take down the Gorosei. Even in this chapter, Luffy told everyone the Gorosei couldn't be hurt, so the best move was to yeet them far away, Team Rocket style. But then, at the end of this chapter, Emeth's huge punch snapped one of Warcury's tusks in half. That's the first time we've seen the giant boar take any real damage. So, I think this shows that Emeth might know how to fight the Gorosei. Even if that's true, I don't think Emeth can beat all of them right now. That would be pretty wild. Also, there are other things I want to hear from Emeth, so I hope he doesn't get wrecked by the Gorosei, like the story of Nika or more about Joy Boy. And there's another cool bit of Hebrew wordplay with Emeth. It turns out Emeth, in Hebrew, has the first, middle, and last letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Some Hebrew beliefs see this as the truth being complete from start to finish. If Oda's using this to symbolize the robot's purpose, we might get more lore about Nika, Joy Boy, and the secrets of the One Piece world, which I'd totally love. But there's one thing I'd love to see even more. Earlier, I mentioned Emeth might be a human turned into a robot. What if we soon see Emeth's human form in the story? How crazy would that be? I can't help but compare Emeth and the Goro, especially with that epic panel at the end of this chapter showing the Gorosei shifting from human to their giant titan forms. I wouldn't be too surprised if Emeth could do something similar. After all, they might all be from the Void Century, fighting each other back then, which would make his future role in the story much simpler. It would be tough for the ancient robot to follow the Straw Hats in its current form. It can't fit on the Sunny, and unless it can swim or has boosters, I can't see it traveling with Luffy and crew. So, if Emeth is supposed to stick with Luffy and can switch back to being human, he'd be perfect for the crew and his job as the next Joy Boy. The last bit of chat between Emeth and this mysterious person, probably Joy Boy, is super interesting. There are a couple of ways to look at it. The obvious one is that it's a memory of something Joy Boy told him, which makes sense. This is what most people online are guessing too. But there's another angle because the text box with those sunburst things is the same one Zunisha used to talk to Momonosuke. So maybe it's Zunisha or Joy Boy talking to Emeth right now. If it's Joy Boy or Luffy, we've got it all wrong. If it's Zunisha, does that mean it's nearby? Or can it sense Emeth from far away? Honestly, I'm not sure which is more likely. But either way, this text box connects Emeth to another ancient creature. Like Zunisha, it seems Emeth has an important job, maybe given by Joy Boy, to protect Luffy or beat the bad guy. Here's the fun part. If both got orders from Joy Boy, maybe everything we're thinking about Emeth also applies to Zunisha. Could the big elephant be a human? Or giant turned into this huge creature by science, devil fruit powers, or something else? Seems possible. If that's the case, maybe Emeth's job is to reunite with Zunisha. Talking about Zunisha, we have to remember the big event from the zoo arc. After everyone got back together on the big elephant and the samurai of Wano showed themselves to the Minks leaders showed us the first hidden road poneglyph. It was inside the big whale tree on Zoo's back. So, what if, like Zunisha had the first road poneglyph, Emeth has the final one? That would surprise everyone. If that's true, I'm sure they'll share it with the Straw Hats after the Egghead Island conflict. I really like this idea, even though there are some questions. Roger and his crew would have had to find Emeth before and somehow access the poneglyph inside him. Emeth seems super strong and durable, like the poneglyphs, since all the cannon blasts and gunfire from the Marines didn't affect him. Plus, he landed a solid punch on Warcury, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's made of something similar to the poneglyphs. We should ask, can Emeth follow Luffy and share info or meet up with Zunisha? The idea that the robot could be the final road poneglyph keeper is super interesting and totally possible. I mean, it could also fire up some ancient tech from the Void Century. Imagine it in a cover story, diving into some lost civilization under the ocean. Since Emeth still has access to the broadcast and Denden Mushi, it might send its own message after Vegapunk's. How cool would that be? Speaking of cool, let's talk about another crazy moment from Chapter 1B119. The giant boar, Warcury, throwing himself at the giant ship. At first, I didn't think much of it, but after reading it a few times, I realized Mercury's move hints at the Gorosei's real powers. Either he thinks the other Gorosei would save him from drowning, or he doesn't have a devil fruit power. No way he'd risk his life otherwise. We know the Gorosei think they're more important than anyone else, so Mercury's powers might not be devil fruit based at all. They could be some other kind of magic system, maybe something from Emu or ancient times. This was easy to miss with all the other action happening in the chapter. Fans were pretty relieved when Bonnie turned back into a kid after being an adult for a bit. People were worried she'd be way too overpowered. For now, she's not near Luffy's level, since she can only hold her adult form for a few minutes. She'll probably use it in short bursts, kind of like how Luffy used Gear 3rd in the beginning. With all the crazy stuff going on, it really feels like we're in the final saga, and we'll get to learn more secrets about the Void Sentry, Joy Boy, and Emeth soon. And here's something you might not have realized. Most of the big events in the story, like Roger finding Laugh-Tale and Shanks stealing the Gomu Gomu no Mi, were likely part of Joy Boy's massive 1,000-year plan. It's wild to think how everything is connected. Thanks for sticking around and watching. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.